this is why I love hockey so much, and I've been growing up in it. I learned so many life lessons. And now I'm in Michigan, and I work for the Detroit Red Wings youth program, and I coach a girls team, and I run the girls team. And I realized that for me to be successful as a coach and for my team, is I need to find, what is the strength of every one of my player, and how can I bring the best in them? Like, that's my job as a coach. Like, yes, I need to know how to skate and teach them the game, but at the end of the day, for us to be successful as a team, I need to find the strength of everyone and bring their best. And you look at the business world, that's how it is in a company. Like, if you want to have a successful company, any CEO, any boss has to find everybody one's strength, and find a way to get the best of each other, because sometimes you do the same thing every day, and if you're not motivated, if you're not excited about what you're doing, it's hard to get the best out of them. And sometimes it takes time to get to know people, but when you can do that, you can be successful.
Welcome to the Renew podcast, where we are talking about how to reclaim your life without losing your edge. So you guys know I'm always really excited, but I am super excited today as we continue our September theme of talking about renewing your mindset. So this morning I have with me my friend Manon Rhéaume, who is the only female to ever have played in the NHL. And we're going to talk about mindset and mental toughness. So Manon, thank you so much for being with me this morning.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I know, this is great. So Manon and I got the opportunity to meet a mutual client. So she and I were sitting on an advisory board for a female collective that is awesome. And I've always worked in a male-dominated industry. I think it's safe to say hockey is a little bit male-dominated. So it was so cool for me because I told you this. I'd followed your career from, back when you were playing. I'm like, this is the coolest thing, but I always picture these big, tough hockey players and all this. And then I met you. I was like, oh my God, you're like one of the girlfriends. It's just, it was so cool to me to see I hate to say normal, but normal person that had just this big personality and just this tough exterior. So tell us how you got started in hockey, because I've heard the story, but I think it's really cool.
Actually, I had two brothers that was playing, and my dad was a coach, and no girls were playing in a hockey team when I was younger. But my brother, every time they want to practice their shots, they would ask me, oh, do you want to dress up as a goalie and play with us? They were using me as a target, but I had fun with them. So I would go on the ice. My dad every winter would make an ice rink in the backyard, and I would go on the ice with them, and they would practice their shots on me. And one day at the dinner table, my dad was telling my mom, we're about to enter a tournament and none of the kids show any interest to play goalie. I don't know which kid I'm going to pick. And I know someone's going to be disappointed that they're going to have to play goalie. And I look at my dad, I'm like, why not me? I do it with my brother all the time here. And at first he was not sure because no other girl were playing. My mom was looking at him like not sure either. She wanted a little girl to do ballet or other girly stuff. And finally, they let me try it, and that's how I got started.
Yeah. Now, I remember you telling me this story. We were talking about, was it in the basement that they were doing slap shots on you? So tell them what your dad, because I thought it was the coolest thing your dad said to you, because you were pretty young then, right?
Yeah, I was young. So after he said, yes, we'll try to have you come and practice and see how it goes, he wanted to make sure I was ready. So he would take me down to the basement and start shooting pucks at me. And one day, one of the puck hit me on the shoulder, and I went down and I started complaining. I told him it hurt. And right away he said to me, get used to it. If you want to play hockey, sometimes it's going to hurt. If you want to just do netting, you'll be fine. But playing hockey, get used to it. So at that moment, I knew that if I wanted to do sports and I would be the only girl, that it's not going to be easy, that I'm going to have to face some different adversity. And that's how I got started.
I love it.
And I remember too, the first day that I went at the rink, my dad wanted to make sure the parents would judge me as a hockey player and not a girl. So he put the helmet on me before I entered the rink. So that way they wouldn't know it was a girl, and everybody was excited to see a new goalie. And it's not until after the practice that they realized I was a girl.
Oh, wow. So I think that's really, good and bad. I mean, you hate that you had to kind of hide the fact that you were female because obviously your talent is what got you where you are, not your gender.
Yeah, but back then you have to understand when no other girls were playing and you're living in a time too. I remember when my mom even told my grandma, that she would let me play hockey. My grandma was not happy with that. Like my mom couldn't even she wanted to be a gym teacher. And she's like, no, this is not for a woman. You should be a secretary. That's what women do.
Yeah.
So I think back then, to see a girl playing hockey was not the norm. And my dad was smart enough to know that if I want my daughter to be accepted there, they need to judge her on her talent and not, judge her before she stepped on the ice.
Yep. So have you always had, obviously a lot came from your dad. Have you always had the mindset of I'm just going to go in and do it? Is it always positive, or talk to us about the negativity or the negative thoughts? Because I get barraged with negative thoughts sometimes. I think we all do. Like you start doing something, you're like, oh, I know I could do this, but then the doubt starts to set in.
It happened. At a young age, I think after that moment with my dad in the basement, like I understood. It's almost like it was a wake-up call to tell me, like in life, it's not going to be always easy.
Yep.
But if you really want it, if you really want to do this, you can do it. So you're just going to have to go through some things. And obviously, after I started having some success, with the team and playing as a goalie, right away, one of the parents came up and said to my dad, oh, my son is really good playing in the driveway goalie. You should put him in. So they almost like jealousy from some other parents that, a girl cannot be like that great. Like if she can do this, my son's going to be better. And I remember my dad telling me, like, Manon, next game, you're not playing goalie, you're going to play out. And I said, why? And he said, because one of the other player wants to play goalie. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm doing well, other kids wants to play goalie. And before, nobody wanted to play goalie. And my dad said to me, you know what, just trust me on that. And sure enough, we went into the game and we lost like 13-3. Like it was the worst score of the year. And after that game, all the parents came up to my dad. It's like, your daughter has to be back in that. And again, like he knew that we needed to prove a point. And for me, when I saw that, I understand what he was doing. So instead of having like a negative mindset, when I was facing those, I started understanding that sometimes you do things to prove a point. And as I got, to play more and more and having more success, all the kids were trying out for the AA level, which was a top level at that time. So I'm like, said to my dad, I want to try out too.
Right.
And my dad said, yes, I'll sign you up. And they told my dad, don't bring your daughter. We're not going to take a girl. But my dad never said to me that they would not pick me, and he let me try out.
So he didn't tell you that he didn't tell you that they weren't going to pick a girl.
No, they wouldn't tell me. And he loved me.
Yeah.
And he knew that I'm going to be crying and be disappointed, but didn't tell me. And I have to say, it's probably the reason why I made it to where I made it. Because after that time, I did the tryouts, I got cut, I was sad, I was disappointed. But right away the next day, I asked my dad to come down in the basement, and she pots at me and signed me up for hockey school. And when he saw that shift of when I got the disappointment, that was like a challenge and become a challenge for me to prove people wrong. The following year when I asked to go tryouts, and he knew again that was the same people, they would not pick me. He still let me go.
Let you go. But that's so important, though. I mean, I feel like we protect. I mean, I'm very anti-protect. Like we protect kids. A lot of people do too much now, and my daughter does martial arts, and so she'll. We've been in class before, and he'll pair her with a guy to start sparring. And there was one time this kid, a teenager older than her, a boy, is like, do you want me to go light? It would kick you light or whatever. And she's like, whatever. I mean, and she beat the squat out of him. It was just, people just assume that we need to be dainty and protect people, males and females too. I just see so many parents not doing what your dad did. And I love the fact that he did that.
I know. And I think back then we were in a different time. And I think especially when you grew up and, I was working when I was 11 years old, like scoring at a baseball field because we had to, and today, like we have kids and we try to do as much as we can for our kids, we're in a different time. And sometimes some parents are trying trying to protect their kids, and they don't want them to be cut from a team. They don't want them to be sit on the bench for the last shift of a game. I run a girls program right now, and sometimes I would get phone call, my daughter didn't play for the last 5 minutes of the game, and like they're all upset about that. And what I told them, it's like, you know what, it is okay, and it's okay for your daughter to be upset, because if she's not upset, that means that doesn't mean anything to her.
Right.
But I have her ask herself why she did not get picked for the last 5 minutes of the game. And when you change, like when you look at things, when you face an adversity, or when someone cut me from the team, I was thinking I was not good enough. So I did something about it. I work harder. So I got cut 4 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
And until the following year, the coach said, I don't care if it's a girl or boy, I'm going to take the 2 best goalie. But by that time, when I was the H Bantam, and not only made the team, but I become the number 1 goalie in the team, because for 4 years in a row, I did so much more than kids that got into the double level, right away. Didn't think that they thought they were good enough, and they didn't have to do extra. I did extra for 4 years in a row. So by the time I got there, like I had a step ahead on other people. And that's why I try to tell the parents that I coach, or the girls that I coach, when they're facing something they're not happy with.
Well, and I think the stick-to-itiveness is what happened. I mean, a lot of people would have given up to be cut 4 years in a row. So I think that just goes to show that you love the sport and really wanted to make a difference. Because I see too many people now, they try something, they fail once, and they're like, okay, not my thing, and they go on to something different, as opposed to really diving in and sticking to it. Because that was, and you went on to, obviously you played in the NHL, you played in the Olympics, so you silver medalist in the Olympics. Those are big things that, can you imagine how many people could accomplish stuff like that if they didn't just quit after the first adversity?
Yeah, and not only that, like that, when after getting cut for 4 years, I finally made it for 2 years in a row at the double level. I was at the H Bantam. And the following year, it was midget AAA. So that was a step below major junior. So that's where you start having scouted looking at you, and you get drafted in major junior. And that year, they invited every single goalie that made it to the double A level, except me. So again, I was facing another adversity. It's like, come on, like I made that level, and I was, doing great, and now I cannot play at the next level. And I was discouraged at that time. And I really thought, that I was done with playing, hockey. And then I had to find a different avenue, a different path. So I heard they had this women league in Montreal that was pretty competitive. And I was from Quebec, and I had to drive 2.5 hours, and we only were playing once a week. And our ice time, because we were women, was 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, or 11:30 start time.
Oh, geez.
After all the boys, after all the men that took the ice, then the leftover was for the women. So I had to drive there, and then I would play at 11 o'clock at night game and drive back home. I was not coming back home until 3 or 4 in the morning just to play a competitive hockey game. But I've been doing this for a few years, and then I ended up playing for Team Quebec, and we had a final on TV, and I played very, very well. And then I was watching my brother play in the midget AAA game, and I was sitting in the stand, and one of the major junior coach was there, and we started talking. He said, "Hey, I saw your game on TV. You were amazing. You did great." And we talk about his team, and he started naming player on his team. And I'm like, I play with him. I play against him. So I knew all the players on his team. And he looked at me and he said, "Would you like to come and practice with us to see what you can do?" And I remember going back home with my mom, and I said, "Mom, I'm not going to school on Monday. I'm driving to Trois-Rivières. I got an invite for a practice.
That's
and
awesome.
I need to go see what I can do there."
So how old were you at that point?
I was about 16 years old.
So that, to me, just to hear these stories with a teenager, it just it's so inspiring to me. That's why you're such a tough cookie. I can't cuss on the show, right? So it's why you're such a, just rock star in that field, because most teenagers would have said, forget this. This is too much work. It shows me you were destined to do big things because you were going after it. Did you watch your dad and your brothers do that, or was that just something that was in you to just kind of go for it?
I don't know if it's because I grew up, with two brothers, and my dad, my dad was driven. And my dad had like 2 or 3 different jobs and doing and help out with the youth hockey and build an ice rink in where we were from, because we were living in a ski area, but he's the one that built the ice rink for the community and everything. So he was always a go-getter. My mom was the same, like it worked so hard. So I think that work ethic was in our family. Like you had to work hard in our family. So.
Yeah.
And I love the game. And I always said to people, if you have passion for something and you work hard, you can accomplish anything you want. And remember, when I went to that practice and I did well, then the coach invited me for the following year training camp.
Yep.
So I was about 19 by that time when he invited me. And, then I went to the camp and I was like, okay, so many times people said no to me when I was younger, like this is a chance that I got. So I went for it. And it's after that I got invited to Tampa Bay. And I remember when I got invited to Tampa Bay, some people were saying to me, oh, you just got invited because you're a girl.
Yep.
And at this point I was like, okay, when I'm younger, because I'm a girl, you don't want me. And now someone's saying you only got there because you're female.
Yeah.
And I told myself, you know what? I don't care why I'm invited. At the end of the day, I'm the one who's going to have to perform. And that's what mattered.
Yeah.
And I went for it. And I didn't want to have any regrets. So what's the worst thing that can happen? I don't have a good camp, and everybody would have said, see?
Yeah.
So I was not afraid of that.
I think that's because I remember that game because at the time I was in St. Louis, and Mac's husband's a big hockey fan. I told you that he's a Blues fan. So I remember that. And for me, not growing up with hockey, I grew up in Georgia. We didn't really have hockey. We didn't have ice. So I think there was an ice rink in the state, maybe one, but I didn't grow up around the sport. But I remember seeing this going, this is the coolest thing. That's how I knew who you were, is just like to see somebody transcend a sport. But I think it's the same in business. And I know you work a lot in business now, and you're going and speaking to companies and helping motivate people and stuff like this. It's really just what you decide to believe in about yourself and let go of what everybody else is thinking.
Yeah, believe in yourself, not be afraid to take risks. And the most important thing is you don't need to fit a mold of what you should look like or be. Like, I certainly not fit the mold of what NHL.
All right, you really don't, because when we were flying to Detroit, when I was coming up to see you guys, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know what I expected. Like, a hockey player and big and you're like this petite little thing who's, just so cute and everything. You're like, I don't know what I expected. I don't know if I thought you were going to be bruised up and, missing teeth, but it is. You don't have to fit a mold. I think so many times we try to just fit into what society thinks we're supposed to be or act like or look like. And I think it's awesome that you've got the skills to, and then still like, yep, doing it my way.
Yeah, because when I went there to camp, I probably had everything going against me. My size, I was small. I was a female, and I speak French, so I didn't barely understand like English, and I had to like face media and all that stuff. So I had everything going against me, but it didn't stop me from doing it. And I even later now, when I start doing speaking engagement, I always refer to that. I certainly like speaking engagement for me, like it's out of my comfort zone. And one of the reasons it's because English is my second language. So sometimes I have words that just doesn't come out the right way. But I tell myself, this is me. This is who I am. And I know I can still inspire people, even if my English is not perfect. And I think that's so important. Like perfection, like try to be perfect and fitting exactly what you should look like. It's very difficult. I think that when you're yourself and people can connect better with, like, just feel like, oh, she's just a regular person like us.
Right. And
I think that's important.
I think that's hugely important. And, in English, and I know you learned a lot of your English when you were here in Atlanta. So, which is, being from the South, our English is very different than the rest of the country. So that not only were you learning a second language, you were learning a Southern version of the second language, which is altogether different. But, as you take all these things forward and you're looking at, the impact you can make. I know you're a boy mom. I've got girls. So I think you can motivate men or women, boys or girls. But as we look at the next generation, I mean, I know you've got a book coming out, so I definitely want you to talk about that. But what are you trying to instill in them? What are you hoping that the kids learn?
And that children book, like to me, I always said, like, if you have a passion for something and you work hard, you put your mind into it, you can accomplish anything you want. And it's not just for hockey. And that was one of the coolest things reading a review about the book right now. That's what people said. This is not a hockey book. Like, of course, we're talking about hockey because what I did is in hockey. But it's more about like having dreams and not be afraid to take risks and go for it and not letting failure stop you. I always look at failure in a different way. Like for me, it's a motivation. When someone said no to me, it's like, let me prove you wrong.
Right. I know. I have that too.
And when I face adversity, like I try to find like what good's going to come out of it. Like just look at this pandemic, like so many people were so negative right from the start, like not be able to do anything. And I changed my mindset right away. I said, okay, this is it. We're stuck now. We cannot do anything. So what can I do with my day? How can I utilize every single minute of my day to be productive and feel good about it? And I found so many different things that, as much as people were bored to be home, I was not. Like I just changed my mindset and appreciate that time that I had with my kids. And my son from college, I used to see like a week at the time, like once every like 6 months. I spent so much time with him and our bond and things like that. So I think it's having a positive attitude help you to change your mindset. And negative people, when you face things, it's very difficult. Like I always said, you need to train your mind the same way you train your body. I used to, that was my strength when I played goalie, my mental toughness. Yeah. And it needs work. You cannot just say, I'm going to be tough. Like, no, you need to work at it.
And I think you're right. It is a tool and it's a muscle that we have to develop. And a lot of that goes to mindset, but a lot of it goes to kind of what you're feeding yourself, the books you're reading. That's why like I love motivational books. Your book for kids is going to be amazing. I'm so excited about that. But it's also who you surround yourself with. And I know you and I've had this conversation before, it's really, I don't see that enough in corporate America, especially with women, is, my friend group and the girls I hang out with, we're all hugely supportive of one another. I don't have any room for people who are negative or can't be supportive, but I feel like so many people are choosing that path, especially like you said, during the pandemic. I know one of your girlfriends, I think it was the movie producer, y'all just launched all kind of new videos and were cooking and all kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh. But you just had fun with it.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, Angie Valero is the one that wrote the children book, which she's an amazing writer. She's also wrote the script for the movie they're making on me. And we've been working, together, collaborating on those projects for 5 years now. And the book is finally coming out. Obviously, with COVID, the movie kind of took a little step back. But we've been working together, and then we're stuck with this pandemic, and we had a lot of momentum. Says, okay, let's do something different. Let's continue to work together and continue to, get to know each other, and for her to know me because she's the one that's going to play me. And it was just, we utilized that time to do something different, which was great. And again, like you said, you have to surround yourself with positive people, with positive story, and that's why I feel like this children book is so important because we hear so much negative out there. Even with social media now, it's so easy for people to just speak up on their social media in a negative way. And like once in a while, I have to say most of the people are super supportive of everything that I did, but once in a while I will see the tweet or something that says, oh, she was just a girl. That's why she got invited. Yeah. But I don't let those messages like affect me because I know inside of me at that camp, and that's something that it's cool. Now people talk more about when they told my story in 92, when it happened, they were talking more about the publicity part of it. Yeah. Now people are saying, you had to perform prior to that exhibition game to get an exhibition game. Right. And we had a mini tournament. And my first game, I did not allow any goal in that mini tournament. And after the tournament, I was the third best goalie in goals against average, in save percentage. And I earned that start. Like, think about it. Tampa Bay would have not put me in the exhibition game if I didn't have a good camp, because that would have been horrible for them. Yep. So, and now in the world that we are today, they're talking more about this part of it, my performance versus this. So when I have negative comment that comes in, I just choose to not let them bother me, because at the end of the day, I know what I did.
Well, and I think, the stats speak for themselves for sure, because there's no way no one's calling and asking me to go to play a hockey game. It would be really bad. I'd just be wobbling on my skates. But I mean, you had to perform to get there. But even after you got there, you had a good game, you showed up, your stats were good. Sometimes we can perform and there's still going to be those critics. I mean, I know you've been asked interview questions before that no one would ask a male. And I'll have a lot of my females, in finance that I work with a lot. And people will ask them questions. I'm like, why would you even ask this? No one's asking this of the guys. So when you get those oddball interview questions or comments, I mean, is it best, obviously if it's an interview, you got to answer them, but do you ignore them or you just kind of put them in their place? I mean, how do you handle the critics?
Here's the thing, like for me to have been able to be accepted by the guys to play with the men, I had to just be like, make them understanding that I was not there to be a distraction. I was not there to change anything in their world. I was just there giving them an opportunity and do my best. And so every time I was asked to do interview and things like this, I didn't want to have all the attention on me. So I would ask the reporter, can we do it after practice when everybody is gone? I have no problem coming back on the ice and do it. If a sponsor wanted me to do a commercial, I said, great, I'll do it. But is it possible to send a bunch of sweatshirts to all the guys on the team? And they would do it. And that way the guys would realize, okay, like this is cool. We're getting free sweatshirts. Yeah. And now when she plays and we pack the place, all those people are there to see us too. And they had their locker room. I had my own locker room, so I didn't have to bother their locker room, their guy time. Yeah. And that was important to me because I didn't want them to change because I was there. And when I faced those comments, instead of getting like really like those questions from the reporter, like I was just like answering them because I didn't want them to think that that was bothering me. And the reporter said to me, so how do you feel when you have your period? And I'm like, I look at him like the same way that any other female athletes that do a sports, and I said, actually, I play my best during that time. And then people would start laughing. So I was turning back the question almost on them. When they said about, did you break a nail playing hockey? No, my nails are all good. And I'm going to go get them polished after the game or something like that. So when you like show them it doesn't bother you, those questions, that's when they stop.
Yeah. I think that's good to remember because I have that little feistiness where I just, sometimes we just want to fight back because you feel like it's not fair. They shouldn't be asking this. So I love the fact that it's like, it's matter of fact. Your focus is on the job you're there to do, which is super cool. All right. So tell us a little bit more about the book and the movie and how people, and I know you sent me a link that we can put up about the book and kind of a pre-thing you're doing with that. So tell us kind of what's next for you. Got book, movie, speaking, everything.
Yeah, so the book is coming out October 20th. So we're going to have a virtual book launch. Obviously we always would have loved to do in person and on the ice somewhere and doing something really cool. But with the time that we are, the good things, again, look at the positive out of it. When you do a virtual launch, you can have way more people part of it. So we're excited about that on October 20th. And it's free, it's virtual. You'll have all the information.
Yep, I've got the links. We'll post it all. Yep.
And we continue to work on the movie. We're at the last stage of like finalizing the financing part of it. Obviously with COVID, it was a little more difficult, that part of it. But like anything else in life, like you need to continue to work hard. And we talk to so many different people that make movie, and it can take years to put all the pieces together. After you get your director and the people that plays in it, everybody's schedule has to work together, and they have time during the year that people can shoot. So it's a lot of things that I'm learning because I knew nothing about that, which has been really cool. And I'm going to continue to do those speaking engagements when we finally can start going and
start traveling again. I know. Well, and you're looking, because your story translates so well to the corporate environment and to companies. And I would say not just women's groups too, but just anybody who really needs to up their game and keep their focus. That's where I feel like your message, it kind of transcends age and gender. It's because it was somebody who loved what they did and just said, I'm not letting anything get in my way.
And what I also realized too, like that sports, this is why I love hockey so much, and I've been growing up in it. I learned so many life lessons, and now I'm in Michigan, and I work for the Detroit Red Wings youth program, and I coach a girls team, and I run the girls team, and I realized that for me to be successful as a coach and for my team, is I need to find what is the strength of every one of my player, and how can I bring the best in them. Like that's my job as a coach. Like yes, I need to know how to skate and teach them the game, but at the end of the day, for us to be successful as a team, I need to find the strength of everyone and bring their best. And you look at the business world, that's how it is in a company. Like if you want to have a successful company, any CEO, any boss has to find everybody one's strength, and find a way to get the best of each other, because sometimes you do the same thing every day, and if you're not motivated, if you're not excited about what you're doing, it's hard to get the best out of them. And sometimes it takes time to get to know people, but when you can do that, you can be successful.
Yeah. And the strengths I'm a huge proponent of strengths, because I feel like, the trend maybe a decade or so ago was to figure out what people were weak at and work on it, but it's still going to be your weakness. If you're, in hockey, if your strength is in goal, you're not going to, be a forward. I don't know the positions, you can tell, but it's, like for me, I know what I'm good at and what I'm not. I'm more the find the strengths and let's empower them. But whether it's a sports team or a CEO boardroom, you've really got to look at how can we put them all together like a puzzle. And as a coach, that's critical.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you don't work on your weaknesses. Like we use practices for us to work on everybody's weaknesses. And when I meet with each players, I tell them their strength, I tell them what they need to work on, and we want them to work on.
Right.
But when it's time to put them in the game, I'm going to utilize their strength. I'm going to choose a position for them that's going to make our team better. And that's how we become successful as a team. And it's no different in the business world.
Yep.
Like you may not have a strength, but you still want to keep working at it to be able to elevate and better yourself. So when you have to face, like someone has to choose between one or the other for a certain project, if you work on your weaknesses and you really push your strength, you get a better chance to beat that person.
Yeah, I think so too. And a lot of that comes now. I think for you, it came natural. I mean, you've got brothers that play, your dad, I know your sons are very, I think you've got an athletic family. It's safe to say at a very, very high level, but whatever people's strengths are, whether it's sports or business or academics or, just personality and engaging other people, it's just figuring out how we can cultivate that. How do you do that? Because I know we're running short on time. How do you do that with your kids?
The number one thing I do with my kids is what my dad did with me. I don't try to protect them from disappointment, from adversity. If they want to try out somewhere, they go ahead and they try out. And even if I know that they're not going to be good enough to do it, go ahead. I want you to face that. And I remember my youngest one a few years ago, he made this, all-star team, and they had this big tournament, and he was 9 years old. And we went to that tournament, and the coach was coming from a junior coaching background, so more with older kids. And they were literally coaching those 9-year-old like it was a junior team. Like they would sit kids like for a long period of time. And I remember my son being like kind of pushed aside for a few games, and he would come back and cry. So for me, instead of like start saying, "Oh yeah, that's not fair, what he's doing to you," and I was doing the opposite. I said, "I know, Dakota, this is hard, but you just worry about the thing you can control. What you can control, it's your performance on the ice. Keep working hard, keep doing good things. Eventually the coach is going to give you a chance." And by the last game, he got that chance to play a lot, and he had an amazing game. But if I would have been negative and got in and telling him how unfair it is, he would have never learned anything from it. And after this tournament, my son came back home and he asked for training, and his mindset of working so hard every single day changed after that tournament. So I knew something good's going to come out of it. And I think that's how I handle my kids now. And now I look at him, his work ethic is up to the roof. And I know he's going to be successful because of it.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great message, because we need to stop protecting kids from disappointment. And because bad things are going to happen in life. And I remember having this discussion with a therapist I had worked with before. And I was like, well, this isn't fair. He's like, whoever said life was fair? It's not. You deal with what is thrown at you and you keep going, you keep pushing. So I was waiting for you to say, get used to it. So I love it because I feel like that's what we need to teach our kids is just you try your hardest, you build a solid work ethic and everything else will fall into place.
Exactly. All about mindset.
All about mindset. I love it. I love it. Well, Manon, thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to post the link to the virtual book launch because I think that would be a very, very, very cool thing for everybody to attend. I'm super excited for it. So thank you for being with us. I appreciate it. I'll look forward to travel opening up and I can get back up to Detroit. But thank you so much and good luck with everybody. So if you guys need a great speaker, a motivating speaker to come in, whether it's virtual or once things open back up, definitely check out Manon. I think she's got an amazing story. So thank you, my friend, for being with us today. And until next week, everybody, keep renewing and keep your focus on positivity and keeping your mindset strong.